Are you ready with the new topic? Okay, so the new topic will be start with the first part first. Okay, understanding requirement. Right, so we will start with your friend sharing topics. Okay, it's about 15 minutes, right? And then we will have a quiz and to check your level of understanding. And then I will explain more on the lecture note, which is topic 3. Okay, so I try to cover understand part 1 and part 2. Okay, if can I cover until part 3 lah, but actually we have another one more week, okay, next week, okay, which is part to cover the requirement engineering part 2 with topic of entrepreneurship. All right, okay, so are you ready, everyone? So remember, this topic will be in your test 1, right? So let me share the video first. So grab a notes, right? So take a notes what your friend sharing, okay? Because after this you will have a short quiz. So if you can focus your friend sharing, I believe you can answer this easy, the basic easy 2 questions. Alright? Boleh?
Boleh, Doktor.
Alright, thank you for the response. So you can see my screen now, right? My sharing screen. It's your friend's video sharing. Okay. Can I have a response? You get my screen now, right?
Yes, Doktor.
Alright. Thank you. Okay, let's begin.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Farwaida. So today we are going to talk about a new chapter, which is a requirement engineering. Now, I'm going to give an example that you are working as a software engineer in a company where a new software development project has been assigned to you. And as a software engineer, from where do we start? Of course, we need a requirement to start the project, and it is one of the major phases of software development lifecycle. So in here, we can see that the product of establishing is the service that the customer requires from a system, and it is constrained under which the system operates and develops. Requirement may be functional or non-functional. So functional requirement describes system, service, or features, and non-functional requirement is a constraint on the system or on the development process. So here, the evolution of the requirement, we have a 3 level. So the first level is at the top, which is the business level, a high-level requirement that express the objective and desired outcomes of the organization. And at the medium level, we have the user level, where the engineering discipline of established user requirement and specifying per system. And at the bottom, we have a product level, where functional requirement is the bridge between the business and technical team and provide a definition of what system must do for its user. Now, a requirement definition is a system in natural language of the service the system provides and its operational constraint. And it's also written for customers. And for software requirement certification, SRS is the structured document setting out detailed description of the system service. And it is written as a contract between the clients, and it also written for contractors and developers. Now, a cost wrongly state requirement. As we see it on the right side, it says that if the problem inserted in the system during the requirement phase are the most expensive to remove. And it also studies revealed that around 37% of the problems developing challenging systems are related to the requirement phase. Next is requirement engineering processes. The processes used for RE vary widely depending on the application domain, the people involved, and the organization developing the requirement. However, there are a number of generic activities common to all the processes. So the first is requirement elicitation. The requirement elicitation means IT help the customer to define what is required. And the second is requirement analysis. The third is requirement validation. Requirement validation means like the work product are assessed for quality to ensure that the requirements are unambiguous, complete, consistent, etc. And the last one is requirement management. So in practice, RE is an interactive activity in which these processes are interlinked. Software engineer works with a range of system stakeholders to find out about the application domain, the services that the system should provide, the required system performance, hardware constraint, and other systems, etc. So next is the requirement elicitation technique. We have the 3 techniques that can be used. So the first one is the technique method asking. We can do an interview, Delphi technique, and brainstorming session. So the next method is observing. It has a text analysis, scenario analysis, ethnography, form analysis, and synthesis from existing system. And the last method is others, which is we can use analysis of natural language description, domain analysis, business process design, prototyping, role play, and use case analysis. So for the next slide, I would like to pass to the one that we're presenting after this. Thank you. Next, we're going to talk about requirement and design. In principle, requirement is what the system should do, meanwhile the design should describe how it's been done. However, in practice, both of these are inseparable. It simply says that the system may operate with another to operate its design requirements. And a non-functional requirement may be a domain, since functional requirement normally described in an abstract way. Some of the requirement engineering issues are wicked problems, requirement inconsistency, requirement clashes, and granularity. Wicked problems is a problem that are difficult and impossible to be solved. It has a complex and interconnected nature. Mostly, large software systems address wicked problems. As example, if you need to create a word processing program, most of the time this program needs to insert text, cut and paste, and print, and so on. But there are still countless new features that will be requested by the user, hence it is difficult to be solved, at least not until you release the last version or end of life the product. Another example that are life related is the issue of homelessness and sustainability. These issues that are mostly impossible to be solved, and obviously it is wicked problems. Requirements that are incomplete and inconsistent leads to wicked problems. Next, requirement inconsistency. When we talk about inconsistency, it can be viewed as two or more requirements that disagree with each other. Different users have different requirements and priorities. There is a constantly shifting compromises in the requirement. Early detection and removal can be helped reduce costs in downstream activities of SDLC. Next, requirement clashes. It is also known as conflicting requirements. It is a problem that occurs when a requirement engineering is inconsistent with another requirements. As example, when a human resource stakeholder requests for age of an employee, but data privacy team didn't allow, as the age of the employee are confidential and may not be used in reports. Therefore, it has a conflicting requirements. Which requirements are most critical? Last one is granularity. Granularity is the greater or in the description of expected software behavior in functional specification. Lower level of granularity demand more effort and time, meanwhile higher level of granularity may not permit appropriate decision to be taken on scope. Next, we move on to reviewing requirements. Why is reviewing important? It is simply because the well-written requirement form the foundation of successful project. It gives the opportunity to check the requirements document for error and confirm the overall quality of the requirement is acceptable before project proceeds. Each individual requirement should have benefit that outweigh the cost of development, importance for the solution of the current problems, expressed using a clear and consistent notation, logically consistent, lead a system to sufficient quality, realistic with available resources, uniquely identifiable, and does not over-constrain the design of the system. Next is requirement document structure. It has introduction, which is requirement definition, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, and system evolution and glossary. Next is requirement for requirement documents, which is the documents need to specify external system behavior, specify implementation constraint. It is also need to be easy to change, serve as reference tools for maintenance, record forethought about the life cycle of the system, and characterize respond to unexpected event. Requirement rationales. It is important to provide rationale with requirements. This helps the developer to understand the public application domain and why the requirement is stated in its current form. Particularly important when requirements have to be changed. The availability of rationale reduces the chances that change will have an unexpected effects.
Next, I'm going to talk about the requirements of writing technique. The first one is natural language. It is written using numbered sentences in natural language. Each sentence should express one requirement. Next is structured natural language. It is written in natural language on a standard form or template. Each field provides information about an aspect of the requirement. Next is design description languages. It uses the language like a programming language, but with a more abstract feelings to specify the requirements. It is used to define an operational model of the system. Next is graphical notations. It is using graphical models supplemented by text annotations. It is used to define the functional requirements for a system. UML use case and sequence diagrams are commonly used in graphical notations. Lastly is mathematical specifications. It is based on mathematical concepts such as finite state machines or sets. It can reduce the ambiguity in a requirement document, but customers are reluctant to accept it as a system contract. Next, I'm going to talk about different types of writing requirements. The first one is non-structured, and the second one is structured. So for non-structured, have natural language, while structured have form-based and tabular-based. Okay? The first one is natural language. It is typically used when writing requirements definitions. This is universally understandable, but problems can arise. Some of the type of the problems are lack of clarity, requirements confusion, and requirements amalgamation. Okay? So for the guidelines of natural language, the first one is you need to use language in a consistent way. Use shall for mandatory requirements. Invent a standard format and use it for all requirements. Avoid the use of computer jargon. Use text highlighting to identify key parts of the requirement. And last but not least, include an explanation, rationally, of why a requirement is necessary. Okay? Some of the problems of natural language are it relies on the specification readers and writers using the same words and concept. Next, requirements are not partitioned by language structures, and its specification is over flexible and subject to different interpretations. Next is structured specifications. It is an approach to writing requirements where the freedom of the requirements writer is limited and requirements are written in a standard way. This works well for some types of requirements, such as requirements for embedded control system, but it's sometimes rewritten for writing business system requirements. Next is structured form-based. It is definition of the function or entity. And it is also a description of inputs and where they come from, description of outputs and where they go. It has about the information needed for the computation and other entities used, description of the action to be taken, pre- and post conditions, if appropriate, and lastly, the side effects, if any, of the function. Next is for structured tabular-based. The specification is, it is used to supplement natural language. It is particularly useful when you have to define a number of possible alternative causes of action. For example, the insulin pump system bases its computations on the rate of change of blood sugar level. Tabular explains how to calculate the insulin requirement for different scenarios. Next is requirements discovery. The process of gathering information about the required system and distilling the user and system requirements from this information. Interaction is with system stakeholders from managers to external regulators. Systems normally have a range of stakeholders. So this, if you look at the picture in this slide, the first one is requirements discovery. The second one is requirements classification and organizations. The third one, requirements prioritization and negotiation. And lastly, requirements specification.
So next, we are going to talk about the requirements technique. First of all, we have interviewing technique. Interviewing technique is a formal or informal interviewers with stakeholders are part of most RE processes. It is also types of interview, and it is effective interviewing. Second of all, we have use case technique requirements. It is a base technique in UML which identifies the actors in an interaction and which describe the interaction itself. It should describe all possible interactions with system. For the technique of requirement is scenarios. Scenarios are real-life examples of how a system can be used. They should include a description of starting situation, normal flow events, what can go wrong, and the state when the scenario finishes. And for this, we have ethnography. Ethnography is a social scientist spends a considerable time observing and analyzing how people actually work. Social and organizational factors of importance may be observed. It also requirements that are derived from the way that people actually work rather than the way which process definitions suggest that they ought to work. It is also effective for understanding existing processes but cannot identify new features that should be added to a system. And the last one of the ethnography technique requirements is it developed in a project studying in the air traffic control process. It also combines ethnography with prototyping.
Prototype development result is unanswered question which focus the ethnographic analysis. So here is about the requirements validation. Requirement validation is concerned with demonstrating that the requirements define a system that the customer will want. It also requirements error costs are high, so validation is very important. It is fixing a requirements error after delivery may cost up to 100 times the cost of fixing an implementation error. And the prototyping is an important technique of requirements validation. So here we are going to talk about the requirements validation techniques. We have three. First of all, we have requirements reviews. First of all, we have second of all, we have prototyping, and third, we have test case generation. And then we are going to look at the requirements checking. We have all of the requirements checking. First of all, validity. We are going to question does the system provide the functions which best support the customer needs. Second of all, consistency. We're going to ask, are there any requirements conflicts? Third, completeness. Are all functions required by the customer included? And last but not least, realism. Can the requirements be implemented given available budget and technology? And then requirements reviews. About the requirement reviews, regular reviews should be held while the requirements definition is being formulated. Both client and contractor staff should be involved in reviews. Reviews may be formal, with completed documents, or informal. Good communications between developers, customers, and users can resolve problems at an early stage. After that, take a look at requirements traceability. Traceability is concerned with a relationship between requirements, resources, and the system design. So traceability, it links from requirement to stakeholders who propose these requirements. And then requirement traceability, it links between dependent requirements. And then design traceability, which it links from the design. So for the last topic of the requirement, these ones. For the key points, system requirements are intended to communicate the functions that the system should provide. And the software requirements document is an agreed statement of the system requirements. And lastly, the IEEE standard is a useful starting point for defining more detailed specific requirement standards. That's all from
Okay. Right. Okay. I hope you get something sharing. Right. Let's do a quiz first. Let me get the link first. Your friends talk a little bit fast because the video actually was exceed the limit. Okay, so make sure. Okay, actually you don't have to go through one by one. You can do a summary from the topic, right? Okay, because you only have a maximum 15 minutes and below. Don't go exceed than 15 minutes. Okay, because I don't want you to drag the time. Okay? 15 minutes enough for topic sharing. And actually, I would rather your sharings is focusing on the example, right? So that your friends have a better understanding. Okay. So check in the chat box. Okay, I shared the link for the quiz. So let's do quiz about 5 minutes. So until 10:35. Okay, so I start receiving the response. Now we have one response. Two response. So the topic sharing, please send me the video one day before the lecture, okay? Because actually I need to go through the video first and make sure the video is not exceed the limit lah, 15 minutes. Okay, you can go below than 15 minutes, but not over than 15 minutes, right? Also, if you do, it will help your friends to understand the topic if you could highlight, okay, or point the content, right? Okay. Added some issues, right? Because like I said, that you need to Google also to check the trend, right? So remember what we have learned in previous topic, okay, software process, okay? You do a review, okay? Later on, okay, everyone should already identify what is the best software process for you to choose for for your project, okay? I think most of the group already got approval. Only a few need to do revise. Okay, I will check this week, okay, because on weekend I was not available. Okay, that's why I will review this week. So you can start do a video promotion, video teaser, right? Video trailer, video teaser for your project. Okay. So I think after, because we only have next week, right? Another week already Hari Raya celebrations, 1 week holiday for you guys, not for us as a lecturer. Okay, we still work as usual. So I think after Hari Raya celebration, we can do video presentations. Okay. All right, already 10:35. We have 24 response so far. Let me check how many attend today. So we should get 26 actually. Okay, I'm not sure that there is someone use the two devices. Okay, if you've done the quiz, okay, please check again in the chat box. Okay, I shared the level understanding. Okay, so if you think that from your friends sharing just now, you get understand more than half. Okay, please choose yes. If you think you get below than 50%, 10%, 20%, you can say maybe, okay, maybe half. And if you think that you not understand at all that topic, okay, you may choose no. Okay, again, don't worry. It's individually. Okay, this is for me to identify which is the hard topic for everyone here, right? So it's okay if you choose yes, no, or half. But my point is, after my explanations, okay, I hope that those say no can move to half at least, or everyone can move to more than 50%, right? So I don't expect you get 100%, right? Because I believe that you should understand better rather than you memorize it, right? So your friends actually already covered the three part, okay, understanding requirement 1 and 2. Okay, actually requirement engineering 2 is details on the process and also stages lah. So I think I will cover the 2 part first. Okay, so I leave the last part next week with the entrepreneurship. Okay, entrepreneurship topic. Okay. Okay. Let me check level of understanding. Okay, I have 12 vote. Okay. If you've done the quiz, okay, please do understanding vote first. Right. So let me check. Okay. I get 26 response for quiz. So I believe everyone already answer the quiz. Let me stop accepting the response first. Okay. So I have 14 votes. Okay. I hope I can get 20. So I need 6 more votes for level of understanding before we check the answer for the quiz. 15, 5 more. 16, 17, 3 more. Because we have 26 here. So I'm not asking for everyone, but at least we have 20 votes to proceed. Okay, so 3 more. From the 26, who else haven't do understanding level? Check in the chat box and do your votes. 18, all right, 2 more. Okay, I need 2 more votes for level of understanding. Your friend sharing just now, the first part is good. Okay, you tell us that requirement engine as a software engineer. Okay, requirement engineering is the need for you to find out something. The intro is good. Okay, but will be nice if you can tell us the overview of the topic. Okay, what will be covered. Okay, and to the end, okay, instead of the key point actually is to do a summary. Okay, so it will help your friends to have a better understanding, right? Because my slide is following the resource person. So I need you guys, okay, to explore more and share with your friends. Okay, of course I also give a sharing, okay, but it's verbally lah. So your friends sharing could have more. Okay. 2 more. Siapa lagi yang belum votes? Now we have 18 votes. I need 2 more votes to complete the level of understanding. Okay, who else? Nak dapat 2 vote pun susah. Come on lah guys. Okay. Alright, 19. Okay, one more. Okay, done. 20 votes. Thank you. Alright. Thank you for all the voters. Okay, from the level of understanding, alright, okay, majority 85% saying that maybe half. Okay, so you get something, at least 10%, 5%, right? 20%. You get something from your friend sharing. Alright, that's good. 15%, which is three students. 3 students saying no at all. Okay, so hopefully after my explanations, these 3%, okay, can get at least half or say yes. Okay, but you don't have to change your word. Don't worry. Okay. I just want to inform you that after my explanations, you can say that you get something from it. All right. Wait. Okay. Okay. Right. Because I'm always open to device to check that you can hear my voice clearly. All right. Let's check the answer. Okay. We have 26 response here. Right. So 14. Okay. 14 get all correct answer. Okay. And then 8 only one correct and another one wrong answer. Okay, at least you get one right. And 4 persons wrong both questions. Okay, maybe you're not aware of the of the questions, or maybe you are too fast to answer. Okay, don't worry, it's not in your assessment, right? So it's just to check your knowledge, your focus. Okay, so question number 1, right? Which requirement are related to system attribute such as reliable and response time? Reliable and response time. This is non-functional requirement. Okay, so functional requirement is your functionality of your system. Okay, your system can update, edit. This is the one that you will do use case later on lah. But for something that it's abstract, okay, abstract, but still it can model. It can be model. Something abstract. More than that, the function which is reliable, consistency, accessibility. That's non-functional, right? Question number 2, SRS stand for. This is important because after this, you will do your SRS. Okay, so always refill your lecture note. What should include in your SRS? Okay, don't, of course, I will give you a template. Okay, but the template is just a guideline. Okay, your content should follow what you have learned, right? So SRS stand for, okay, because of this course, this subject is software engineering, right? So it's talking about software. Of course, software is also a system, right? Okay, but SRS is the best is software requirement specifications. That's why our subject is software engineering. So talking about software. Software requirement engineering, right? Not system. I know that some of you might mischoose of this answer, system requirement, right? So remember our subject, our course is software engineering, talking about software, development of software. So it should be software requirement system, right? Okay. Okay, so far so good.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, let's start with part 1, understanding requirement. Okay, again, this lecture note is standard all over the Malaysia who take this course. So I need to use this slide. Okay, that's why for your sharing, you can add more content, example, okay, to give your friends more understanding. All right, so to remind again, okay, this course is software engineering theories and practice. Okay, so first of all, okay, we need. I also want to copy what your friends did. Okay, as a software engineer, as a developer, okay, you need to get the requirement, right? So before we gather the requirement, we need to understand what is requirement needed. Okay, remember the topic 2, you have learned about software process model. Okay, you already identify which is the best software process model that you will choose for your development construction software later on. So before that, okay, before you develop, before you construct your software, now it's there to understand the requirement first. Okay, so first of all, the first part is the definition. What is requirement? Okay. 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 I think my slide a little bit stuck. Okay. It may range from a high level abstract statement. So requirement here is a statement, abstract statement. Okay. When it's talk about abstract, abstract, it's to give you a summary. Okay. Abstract statement. Okay. So it can have a few range. Okay. From the simple statement until the high level one. Okay. And a system constraint for of a service or a system constrained to a detailed mathematical function specifications. So instead of summary, is also the detail of function of function specification. So as a requirement may serve a dual function. Okay, may be the basis for a bid for contracting. So what is the purpose of requirement? Okay, what is the purpose of requirement? So there is a three purpose. Okay, first, to bid for a contract. Okay, remember that I told you normally for government sector, we open a tender. Okay, and tender is a contract, same things lah. Some call contract, some call a tender, right? You need to open a tender. Okay. So to get a tender, you need to bid, right? So to come up with the tender, open the tender, you need to come up with the requirement. The vendor need to know what kind of system that you. So the second purpose, maybe the basis for the contract itself. Maybe it's not for a bid. Okay, it's a contract. It's to show what should you develop, how the system should works. Okay, so it's a contract, or it's a blueprint. Actually, it's a contract. It's a blueprint that as a developer, what you should develop. Okay, and as a stakeholder or users, what they need. Okay, so both have their own role. Third, both this statement may be called requirement. Okay, so that's the two is the purpose lah for bid and also for a contract. These two we call it requirement. Okay. So requirement describe what, not how. Okay, what is it? Okay. To produce one large document written in natural language contain a description of what the system will do. Okay, without describing how it will do. To tell the developer, to ask the vendor, okay, what the system they need, what the system will do. Okay, not describing the detail of the system. Okay. So the crucial process step, quality of product process that create it without well written. Okay, because when we require a system, okay, we might not understand well how the system works. So we are proposing the developer or the vendor to detail out later on. Okay, so that's why it's stated here without well written document, because we might not the detail. We only know the system should behave like this. Okay, not the detail how the system should be, right? So what is all about? Okay, what the system that you need? I want the system, the e-commerce system that you can do a transaction, online transaction, buying and selling transaction. Okay, but you don't know the detail. What kind of function should be in the e-commerce system, right? Okay. So developer do not know what to build. Customer do not know what to expect, what to validate, because this is just overall to tell what the system they need. Okay. So the second part is sources of requirement. Okay. Is it my screen stuck also in your side? Because in my side is
Start, Doctor.
stuck. Wait, because actually I don't shut down my computer. That's why sometimes I need to restart it, but never mind. Let me just reopen the document. Time ni lah kan. See, it's not responding. So I close it first. Okay, give me times to open it again. Okay, it's open the document first. Okay, so in this first part, you will have 5 things. Okay, 5 things. First, the definition. Okay, the definition of requirement. The second, source. Okay. Third is types of requirement. And the fourth is evolutions of the requirement, and then characteristic. Okay, 5. Okay, 5 things to remember it. Okay. Okay, this one, right? Source of requirement. Oh, okay, I forgot to share the screen first. Right, so already opened it. Now I'm sharing. Okay. Right, let me check. Yes, okay. So source, okay, sumber. Dari mana? From where? Okay, from where we can get this requirement? Okay. So first initial requirement come from the customer. Of course, customer know what they want, right? But like I said, that it's just overall what the system they want. Okay, so initial requirement should come from the customer, your client, your stakeholder. Okay, documents such as all this, the meeting, the interview, the report. This is the example of the document lah. Okay, report, report financial, report anything from the meeting, from the interview, or from any documents lah. Okay, from the customer. Okay, that to tell us that what kind of system they want. Okay, and another source is the advanced or detailed requirement come from the analysis after studying. Okay, before this, actually every system should have a research. Okay, so actually when we want to develop, we want to start a project, a research, it should start with a problem. Okay, what problem to be solved? Okay, so when you get the problem, you should do analysis, right? What is the solution? What is the best solution? So that's come the word analysis. Okay, so example in my case, okay, we want to have a system that can increase public awareness on biodiversity, because that time people don't know what is biodiversity. Okay, biodiversity is living thing, okay, flora, fauna, okay, and the living things. Okay, people don't know what is biodiversity, what is flora, what is fauna. Of course, you know, we have a flower, right? We have animal, okay. But the local name, the specific, the scientific name that we want to make sure public aware, because some of the species might extinct or endangered species. Okay, that's we need to have a conservations units to help on before it extinct. Okay, so this we found that public don't know about biodiversity. Okay, so our system, we want to propose a system that can easily people know about the detail of this of the species of the biodiversity. Okay, and also to help the researcher when they go for field work. Okay, they know, okay, they can know that this species is already in the database, or if there is not in the database, it's a new species. new species. Okay? So it have two main function here. So that's the overall. So we try, not we lah, actually I'm the middle one. Okay? I'm the project manager. Do a study. Okay? What kind of system that actually we need for these two purpose. Okay, for the public and also for the researcher. Okay, so I'm the one who do a studying, analysis, research. Okay, to check what kind of system that a bit similar with what our purpose. Okay, what is the best system? What is the best solution? Okay, so instead of that, okay, in detail of it, okay, I also need to figure out the scope and also price, because we have the budget from the government. Okay? So the budget, it should be in the budget, not exceed, not over budget, right? And also the feasibility, in Malay, keboleh-laksanaan. Okay? Keboleh-laksanaan of the solution in terms of the technologically, software, hardware, economically, and also organization, and also social, which is the public and also the purpose of the researcher. Okay, and then if I can show a prototype, okay, prototype can be, because your project later on, you need to come up with the prototype, function prototype, that you can show the you don't have to develop the whole system, but it can show the function of the system. If you said that the system can do search, so you make interface look like it can be searched, click and link it, right? Only to do that link. You don't have to create the database and so on. Okay. So my prototype in terms of low fidelity. Okay, low fidelity and high fidelity lah. Low fidelity, I do a storyboard, I sketch it. Okay, and high fidelity, I make it in an interface. Okay, graphical interface. Okay, so this is the requirement. Okay, actually it's from the customer lah, because customer is the one who propose. Actually, to find the problem, actually you are the one who find the problem and then you propose to the company. Okay, or else the company come to you. I have a problem, I need this solution, right? So these two problem. Later on, you do final year project also like that. You need to find the problem first, and the problem can come from you. Okay, by your writing, by your reading, or by your observation. Okay, and the second, the problem also can come from the client, the stakeholder. Okay. Final requirement are stabilized and iterative process. Again, okay, when we talk about this software, the system, okay, it should iterate, okay, because we need to revise, right? We need to revise because we have the first analysis of the system might need improvement. That's why iterative is a good process. Same goes with software, your software process model. Okay, that's why in industry, okay, normally it's will choose the evolutionary model, okay, where involve the iterative process. Okay, so this to show you the difference between requirement and design. Okay, these two is relate, okay, but different. Okay, don't say that requirement is design is requirement. No, it's not same. Okay, but it's relate each other. Okay, so requirement is to tell what is the system should do. Okay, more abstract in term of the document, in term of the overview. Later on you will do the technique, what requirement you can write. Okay, and design is to tell us how the system should do, which is more detailed. Okay, so you have the requirement list, okay, the features, okay, the design is how the system should do it, the detail of the function. Okay, so so again, the source of requirement, okay, it can from the business level, user level, and product level. Okay, so we are now in this here, requirement specification. Okay, so maybe the company, which is the business requirement, need efficiency of the system. Okay, you need some system that make the management more efficient. Okay? And in the user level, which is your staff. Okay? Your staff require a system that can manage. Maybe you are a company of selling something, right? So you need an e-commerce system. So in the product level, which is the software. Okay? So this is the software. So this is the requirement specification where include the function requirement, non-function requirement, the constraint, okay, the data requirement, and also external interface requirement. So in requirement specification, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Functional, non-functional, constraint, data requirement, and external interface requirement. Okay. So next, types. Okay, types of requirement. Okay. So we have two types of requirement, user requirement and system requirement. Okay. This one is system requirement. Okay. Business requirement are the critical activities, which is the main one, the organization. So critical. The user requirement statement in natural language plus diagram of the service the system provides and its operational constraint written for customer. Okay. So in user requirement level, you need to make sure that your client, your stakeholder understand. Okay. Understand the requirement. Okay. So this is user requirement. What your client, what your user need. Okay. Last one is the system requirement. Okay, a structured document setting out the detail of the description. Okay, for example, we need a system that make our online transaction smooth. Okay, e-commerce. Okay, user requirement, you need to have a e-commerce system. In system requirement, the detail of the e-commerce system. Okay. And the third one is functional requirement. Okay, statement of service. Okay, that system should provide how the system should react when particular input and how the system behave. Okay, which is how the system works lah, function requirement. Okay, non-functional requirement. Okay, oh sorry, let me explain the first one. This is the one just now that you have a business level, user requirement, and system requirement, right? So the type of requirement is functional and non-functional requirement. Okay, so functional requirement is the statement of service to tell the system what it should react when some input and what it should behave. And non-functional requirement is to cover the constraint. Okay, cover the constraint on the service. For example, that the efficiency, the accessibility, the safety. You want to have the safety system, okay? Or you want to solve the problem from the safety issues. Okay, so these two we can model it. Okay, we can model it. Domain requirement is actually we have this main lah, functional and non-functional. For domain requirement, constraint on the system from the domain operation for the whole domain whole. Okay, example that you are creating a system for e-commerce, so the domain is the e-commerce. Okay, if you want to create a system for management or on the management, the domain of the requirement is constraint the management efficiency. You want the system to be efficiency and so on. Okay, so requirement interdict, and this is to show lah the what we get, the connection. Okay, the connection for each of it. Okay, so we have business level, user level, and product level. Okay, and user level have 3: user requirement, business rule, and quality attribute. In the product level, you have 5. Okay, constraint, functional, non-functional, data, and interface. Okay, so let's go through each type of the requirement. The first one is functional. This system, okay, depend on the type of software, expected users, and type of system. Okay, functional user requirement may be high-level statement of what the system should do. Okay, this one is functionality lah. When we talk about functional requirement is the features. Senang cerita features and function. Okay, normally we always use the word features and function, right? The features of your system. Okay. Example, able to do search, able to read, okay, able to copy, right? For the second one is non-functional requirement. Okay? Non-functional requirement, if you see, it's also can be break into 3 parts. Okay. Product requirement, you want your product to be portable, reliable, usability, efficiency, space requirement, and perform. Organizational requirement, the delivery, the implement, and also the standard. And another one is external requirement, talking about the ethics, interoperability, legislative, safety, and privacy. Okay, so non-functional requirement can have these 3 parts. Product itself, okay, in organizations, okay, internal organizations, and external. External include lah law punya kan, etik yang luar. Okay, again, non-functional have 3 parts. Product, internal, organizational, and external requirement. Okay. So product requirement which specify that the delivery product must behave in a particular execute speed, reliable, the detail. Okay. You can say that your system can do search, but non-functional saying that reliable search or execute speed can do a fast search. Macam itulah the detail of it. Okay. Organizational, talking about the internal policy, procedure. Okay, if you have a standard, okay, some of the company have their own standard, right? You sometimes it's follow IEEE, something like that lah. Okay. External, it's outside from the organizations, on the law, okay, legislative, okay. Okay, so again, to remind, this is the evaluation. I don't know why the slide is keep repeating to remind you lah kan. So again, okay, we have 3 level of requirement. Next part is characteristic. So characteristic of a good requirement. Okay. So characteristic of a good requirement, unambiguous, testable, can be verified, clear, okay, should precise, simple, concise, this, okay, correct, understandable, feasible, independent, atomic, focus, necessary, implementation free. Okay. But this is not you don't have to have all. If you can have all, which is good, okay, but this is a characteristic, okay, for a good requirement. Boleh test kan, concise, simple, okay, because this one important, clear, right? Clear. Your requirement should be clear so that both the developer and the stakeholder understand. Okay, understand. Should be correct, because after the requirement done, okay, this is what you meant for the system, right? But if you wrongly stated it, of course, wrongly lah. Should be understand both party, okay, feasible, independent, and the detail. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10. But not necessary to have all. But if you have all, which is good lah kan. Okay, but this is all the characteristic of a good requirement. Okay, exercise. Is the below statement is a functional or non-functional requirement? Explain your answer. So the class roster system should be able to print out a list of the system in the class, including name, student ID, number, major information, putting 25 name on each pages. So what is the function? What is the answer? Functional or non-functional requirement? Anyone? Salah tak apa, betul lagi bagus kan, which is you understand lah. So this statement is referring to functional or non-functional requirement. Guys, are you with me? Siapa-siapa je. Non-functional requirement, Anis kata. Is it correct, non-functional?
Betul.
Are you sure non-functional requirement? Because should be able to print out. Itu apa? Function ke non-functional?
Functional.
Functional, right? Functional,
Yeah.
to print out. Okay, this is clearly your system should be able to print. The features of your system should be able to print. This is functional, right? So let's look into the second one. Okay. Which of the characteristic of good requirement does the below requirement statement lack? Okay, explain your answer. At the end of the game, the software should display a score report indicating the percentage of questions for which student knew the correct answer during the game. So is this a good requirement?
Good.
Yes. Why?
Good.
Yes, good. Yes. Why? Because what?
Because they
Because?
include the result of the game.
Okay. It clear tell us, okay, the purpose of this system, okay, should display score report, which is indicate the percentage of the question, okay, which the new student student knew the correct answer during the game. So you can check lah who is list of the student that get the correct answer, right? Okay. Actually, it can also not a good. It have a lack also. What do you think the lack in this statement? When the question is tell us which of the characteristic of good requirement does the below requirement statement lack ni. Tadi you kata this one is a good requirement, right? Okay. But what do you think the lack of it? So yang mana? Kita tengok tadi ada a few good characteristic ni kan? Which one yang lack, yang tak ada sebenarnya dekat situ? Anyone can try to guess which one? It's depend on your understanding actually. So I don't say that you will have a wrong answer. If you say that clear, maybe some of you couldn't understand the statement. It can be. Why don't it just directly tell us that display what? Instead of they give the statement, the student should be correct, right? Some of you might couldn't understand it, right? So can be also understandable, right? Okay. Can be also clear. The feasible, realistic, and possibility. You don't know how to check it, right? That's why I said that it's based on you to define it actually. Okay. Do you think this one is clearly identify the characteristic? For me, actually, it's quite long sentence. Some of you might not understand well, which the student knew the correct answer, right? Instead of just tell us that display score report, okay, showing percentage. It's one percentage of question tau, bukannya percentage of answer actually. So again, yes, some have a good requirement. It showed score report, right? But the lacking is on the explanations, the feasibility, the understandable, right? So no right or wrong answer actually. Okay, done. We done the first part of understanding requirement. So hopefully everyone can understand what requirement. What is requirement? What define the requirement? Boleh? It's an abstract apa? Abstract statement, right? Abstract statement. Okay, source. What is the source? Source from the, of course, stakeholder, your users, right? Your users might get from the document or also from the study. The third part, types. How many types we have? we have three, actually functional and non-functional, but added one more is the domain requirement. And then evolution, you have business level, user level, and product level, right? Okay, and then lastly, the characteristic. Okay, should be understandable, clear, unambiguous, apa lagi? Feasible, can be test. Okay, all that. All right. Okay. So I see the emotion. Hopefully understand. Just not just you put the emotion only. Okay. All right. Let me open the second part of it. Requirement engineering one. Boleh? Ada soalan tak?
Boleh.
Boleh. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we still have a time. Okay, slow. Okay. I'm not to rush. You also not to rush. Like that's why I put the requirement engineering to explanation on next week. Okay, so requirement engineering one, after we understand what is requirement, because the purpose is to tell us understand the requirement first, then the definition, the evolution, the types, and so on. Okay, now requirement engineering. Okay, requirement engineering, the process of establishing the service constraint under which system operate and system develop. Okay, and requirement may be functional or non-functional. Okay, see the main type of requirement is non-functional and functional. Okay, so when we talk about the word engineering, okay, just now we talk about requirement. We don't have the word engineering at the behind, right? The back. So when we talk engineering is a process. That's why it's mean here the process. Okay, engineering is the process. Okay, so requirement may be functional and functional. Okay, so functional describe the system service or features. Senang cerita, functional tu ialah features. That's why we almost say that features function, kan? Features and function. Non-functional is the constraint. The system should more safety. The system should more reliable. The system should be more efficient. Something that you couldn't see it but experience it. Macam itulah dengan kata lain. Okay, so again to remind you the evaluations, the 3 level. Okay, and terminology. Okay, this is refresh again. Okay, requirement definition is a statement. Okay, statement. Okay, statement in natural language of the service the system provide and its operational constraint, because it's involved. When we talk about requirement, involve functional and non-functional. That's why it's stated here, system provide and its operational constraint. This one is non-functional. The first part is functional requirement. So written for customer. So you are the one who detail out the system. Okay, because the contract just now is provided from the client, from the customer. Just overview what the system will be. Okay. So this is the main document that you need. Okay, software requirement specification, or in short SRS. Later on in your project, you will need to start doing this SRS. Okay, because in SRS there is a few things inside it lah. So for next lab, okay, when is our next lab? Tomorrow, right? So next lab we learn about the UML first. you will need to use a use case. UITM choose to use a use case. Okay. Kalau UMS we use DFD dengan ERD only. Okay. But in UITM they ask us to teach you all to use case. Actually there is a pro and cons lah. A use case there is more detail, but there is a lot of diagram. Actually more than 13 diagram. Actually that I did explain in the chapter 1 ya. Kan, chapter 1 introduction, right? Okay, more than 13. But we will not go through the detail of the 13. Okay, we have I think 4 or 5 diagram. Use case description, and then you have activity diagram, sequence diagram, and what is one more? Class diagram. Okay, you have 5. Okay. So software requirement specifications, SRS, is a structured document. Structured document setting out the detailed description of the system. Okay? Written as a contract between client and written for contractors and developers. So written as a contract. So this contract to show what, as a client, the stakeholder, they are responsible, their role, and you as a developer team, okay, what you should do. Okay. So to define again requirement definition, provide a mechanism where bidder can comment on items sold. This is more on communication tools. Okay, communication tools between the stakeholder, the client, and you, the developer team. Okay, so that's what it's stated here, mechanism of the bidder. Okay, and to put a comment on item sold. Okay, any comment should be maintained. Okay. Because if you done the SRS, you need to return back to your client. They will check to confirm, yes, this is the system that we want, something like that. That's why mechanism for the comment is kind of communication tools actually. The user requirement should be translated into generic as much as possible, because our client is not understand the technical part. So, frankly speaking with you guys, actually, when we deliver to customer SRS, okay, the SRS that we send to our customer, okay, we try to put as generic. Okay, even the use case, some of the stakeholder couldn't understand it. Normally they like to see the flow chart. The easy one is the flow chart, how the system is behave lah, something like that. That's the normal. Try to generate. That's why it's put is try to generate, because your user might not understand the technical part. Okay. A blackboard is needed so user can leave comment about bid. This is the communication tool lah. You can put some area for your stakeholder can comment it lah, okay, if they couldn't understand. So users requirement, client manager, system and user. Okay, this one system and users. Okay. This is in users requirement on the top level, client manager, system and user, client. Okay, contractor, manager, system, architects. But in detail of the product, okay, because the product will be used by the users, right? So it's more on the end users and between the developers and users. So this is research done. Here research done from one of the institutions. It stated that it will costly, it expensive. If you create a system, you have a wrong requirement, or the requirement is not so good. Okay, it will cost you more than what it should be. Okay? That's why it's mentioned here lah. Okay, expensive. Okay, studies reveal that around 37% of the problem developing challenging system are related to requirement phases. If your requirement is based on developer requirement, not user requirement, you are the one yang shock sendiri kan. Okay, this is the features, function that you need for your system. Without your concern from your stakeholder, you just develop the system. So it's written back that your users might not satisfied with the system. So it will cost expensive because you need to improve it, and improve it is very major. Okay, macam buat rumah lah, you buy a house and then you do a small renovation because you like the house, you like the house structured design. Okay, but some of the part you might need to extend, okay, kan, atau improve kan, taruhlah built-in kitchen macam tu. Itu renovation sikit-sikit je. But what happen if you buy a house that you don't like the design? So you need to robohkan, bina balik. Kan? Atau bukan tak suka lah. Mungkin you want to have a new house kan? Robohkan, rumah balik. Robohkan tu, satu kos. Develop lagi, satu kos. So I still remember lah. Actually my mom house kan, kat kampung tu, dah 2 kali buat renovation. First renovation ni, kita guna kayu kan. Konon-konon lah orang tua kata kayu ni sejuk kan, sejuk. Kalau rumah batu ni malam-malam panas kan. So they prefer wood kan, wood to buat. So what happened? Anai-anai kan. Termite. Okay? Termite. Okay? So rosak berlubang-lubang rumah. So that's why we try create a new one. Kita robohkan semua sekali. Sebelum ni kita tak robohkan tau. Kita just buat a certain part saja. Yang tukar bahagian depan saja. Because yang lama tu still wood, okay? Tapi dia tinggi. So kita rendahkan, sama ratakan dengan yang belakang. Okay? So we only renovate certain part lah. But termite. Rumah berlubang-lubang. Orang boleh skodeng kan. So what happened? We build new one. Okay, robohkan balik, satu cost tau. Tak mahal lah tapi still have a cost. Robohkan balik and we create a new one. Rumah batu lah. So we need to have everything new. But dah teruk sangat. So it costly. I still remember lah kalau yang first renovation tu, a few part tu, it takes only below than 10,000. But the new renovation yang second part ni more than 60,000. Nasib baiklah saya ada KWSP kan. So saya yang cover all the costs. So it cost us 60,000. Okay. Alright. So that's to tell you, if you have a wrong state requirement, it will cost more. Okay. Develop satu hal. Nak buat balik lagi satu hal. So two costs. Okay. Alright. So requirement engineering process. So when we talk about engineering, there is a process lah. The process used for RE vary widely. Banyak proses. So remember, you have software process model pun, you have a few option, right? And the three generic one is waterfall, evolution, and integrate tu. In this RE process also widely. Okay, widely. So generic activities. Even though we have widely process, but to make it standardized. Macam yang I tell you lah, even though we are different, male and female kan. Perempuan nak macam ni, lelaki nak macam ni kan. But actually we can come up with one pattern. Perempuan rasa okey, lelaki pun rasa okey. Contohlah maksud dia macam tu. So we can generate these activities in common, which is all the process should include requirement elicitation, requirement analysis, requirement validation, and requirement management. These 4 common process. Alright. So again, RE is an iterative activity, meaning that when you are in the second analysis, you can go back to elicitation. When you already validate it, you need to improve your analysis, you can go back to the analysis, or maybe you can go back to the first part, right? So software engineer work for a range of system stakeholder and system provider required. Okay, so in the process, you have stages. Tadi proses kan? Process activity. But this one is stages. Okay, stages will include the requirement discovery, requirement classification and organization, requirement prioritize negotiation, and requirement specification. Dia macam ni lah. Tadi proses kan, proses dalam buat requirement engineering. But these stages, you kena discover dulu, lepas tu you kena kumpulkan kan, susunkan dia, and then prioritize dulu. Yang mana dulu nak buat, macam tu lah, dan negotiate kan, because of the budget, because of the time kan, and baru you come out the requirement specification. Lepas ni, barulah you go to the process lah, macam tu. Okay. So requirement engineering process, this one, if we talk about the process, actually is quite similar with the model that you learn in topic 2. Okay. But that one is on development tau. Yang ini ialah requirement engineering. Okay, if you can see that it still have kind of this spiral, but RE process should be iterative. You don't have option to do a waterfall plan base, or you can you have the iterative and also the configuration. No, it should iterative. Why? Tadilah yang cost tu. The reason is the cost tu. Salah dia requirement, it will take the cost. Okay. Just now we have the elicitations in the process, right? So in elicitations is have a few techniques. Okay. Remember the first process just now, elicitation, right? So in elicitations you have techniques. Okay, 3 techniques. By asking, by observing, and other things. Normally ni lah kita buat interview kan. Delphi technique ni expert punya review. Brainstorming, you know, brainstorming everyone can throw the idea and then you brainstorm lah. Okay, observe is based on the task analysis, scenario analysis, case study, kan? Ethnography, form analysis, synthesis. Synthesis sebenarnya bukan synthesis from existing system. What is the problem with the existing system? So can asking, observing, and others. Others means that other than that, use case, document, domain. Okay, so this is later on. Okay, when you start your project, you do requirement engineering kan? So you need to choose either one. You don't have to do all. You can choose interview. You can choose a task analysis, but you need to follow the process lah. Okay, again, to remind you the difference between requirement and engineering, or the link between these two. Okay, in principle, requirement should state what the system should do, and design should describe how it does. Okay, requirement, what the system should do. Okay, the general system works. Okay, and design, the detail of how the system should works. Okay. In practice, requirement and design are inseparable. Tak boleh dipisahkan. Macam apa ni? Macam lagu dan irama. Panggil apa? Kan? Macam tu. Macam lagu dan irama. Dia come together. You have requirement because you need to show your requirement in design. That's why. Requirement, you want to show the detail. So, you need to design it. Something like that lah. Tak boleh dipisahkan. Macam apa ni? Apa yang cerita Piramli tu? Yang jantung dan hati. Apa dia sebut tu? Yang dia bagi-bagi. Kau RM1, saya RM1. Kan? Dia sebut macam tu kan? So, something, jantung dan hati jantung dan hati benda yang sama ke? Tak ingat. Alah. You all ni tak tengok dah cerita Piramli dah. Interesting. Dia ada message di sebalik. Isi dan kuku. Itulah contoh lain dah. Saya cakap pasal Piramli. Bolehlah isi dan kuku kan. Kalau isi tak ada, pelik lah kan. Tinggal kuku je kan. So macam isi dan kuku. So it's ni lah. Tak inseparable. It's come together. Macam tu lah. Buy one, free one. Macam tu. Kan? Okay. So there is a few issues. Okay. The next part on the requirement engineering ada a few issues lah. Weak problem. Weak problem ni apa ni? Macam masalah sistem yang apa ni? Bad system kan? Bad system atau kemungkaran sistem kan? Most large software system address weak problem which are so complex that they can never be fully understood, and where understanding evolve during the system development. So isu yang pertama, kebanyakan software system adalah system bad in term of what? Complex lah. It have a different type of issues, okay? Because of the system. Okay. Therefore, requirements are normally both incomplete and inconsistent. So the reason why? Requirement incomplete or inconsistent. Okay. Issues number 2. Okay. Requirement inconsistency. Okay. This affect that the new system. Okay. Large software must improve the current. Okay. Of course, you want to propose a new system, right? New system. Your old system and new system have different requirement. Inconsistency, something like that lah. Affect that the new system. Another inconsistent, if you have different type of users, different type of stakeholder. Okay, everyone have different own requirement, right? So if it involve different users, okay, it will have these issues, inconsistency. Okay. Kalau users dia orang yang sama, tak apa. Macam dalam organisation, seorang je yang buat admin, dia je yang buat dia yang guna sistem tu. Fine, only one users. But how if there is different users, multi users yang different role? Macam university punya sistem kan, you feature. We have a lecturer role and also you as a student punya different. So your requirement and my requirement should different. My requirement is I can update my content, right? I can update my recording and so on. But your should be can see all the content, can talk directly to the lecturer, because you feature now. I don't think it have a function that you send a message to a lecturer, right? Because in UMS before this lah, actually they also moved to new system lah. We use Smart V3. Actually, that one is the customized system. Okay. We have the function that we update weekly. So student boleh nampak lah apa kita buat every week. The system is already giving us 14 weeks tau. 14 weeks. Dekat U feature tak ada. That's why in activity, the lecturer need to do manually. Okay, kita kena create week 1, week 2, week 3. Kalau rajin lah kan. But the Smart V3 dia memang come with weekly punya function. Okay, and you can ask the lecturer chat in the chat. Okay, directly. So, sebab U feature ni dia buat sendiri. Saya tak rasa dia guna customize. Dia macam buat hard code ke, saya tak pasti. Ataupun they have a different customized software which is not e-learning punya lah. So some still need improvement lah. Okay. System and user and organization who pay for the system have different requirement. Ini different stakeholder. Tadi different users, yang bawah ni ialah different stakeholder lah. End user lain, organization lain. Kan? Mungkin ini macam tadi case dalam university, role of student and role of lecturer. Okay. Prototyping is often required to clarify requirement. That's why requirement only the list, the system can do this and this and this. It's not enough. Because as a users, you want to see how actually the system works, right? That's why we need prototype. Okay. Kan issues is requirement clash. Ini kisah clash pula. Tahu kan clash maksud dia apa? Spacecraft system to minimize weight, the number of separate, to minimize power. Because the system that you develop might not match with the facility that have in the organization. Sistem bukan main hebat lagi kan, powerful. So bila dia move kepada original server, dia cannot cater it. So it crash. Dia tak cukup dia punya capacity ke, power consumption dia ke. So it crash. Okay. Because ni lah issues requirement. Okay. Last issues is granularity. Okay, granularity ni apa maksud dia ni? Granularity tadi? Detail. Okay. Requirement may range from high level, because when we talk about requirements sebenarnya banyak. Kan banyak. Tu orang kata system constraint. Terutamanya yang non-functional tu, system constraint. You kata nak the system works well. Well macam mana? Right. So the detail issues of the requirement. This application shall give end users the ability to check an available room at a hotel. Tapi detail dia macam mana? Dia boleh check sampai availability macam mana? By date, kan? By room. So the detail. Okay, so next part is reviewing requirement. Of course, requirement need to be reviewed because you need to validate. Okay, so talking about the benefit, of course, it can help on the cost development lah. Kalau you review, you already have a check. Of course, the system is the requirement is good lah. Good, have a good requirement. Important for the solution of the current problem. Okay, so be expressed using a clear, consistent. This is to check actually. The reviewing is to check the good characteristic just now. The good characteristic of requirement. So to make sure that can be understand, can be test, reliable, practical, yeah, something like that lah. So that's the benefit of reviewing the requirement. So talking about the document, Of course, requirement is the document, right? The document. Okay. So this is the detail of the document. Later on, you will have the template. But like I said, that don't follow exactly the template because the template is just a guideline. So the detail of inside of the detail, the detail inside of the detail of the content, please always refer the lecture note. For example, in the process of elicitations, you need to go through a few techniques, right? Asking dengan observing tadi. So you kena buat lah. Okay, jangan just generally sahaja. Because kat situ tulis general saja kan. But apply what you have learned in the chapter. Okay. So standard. Okay, it should have the introduction. This of course the description lah, overall descriptions of the system should fit with the business objective. Okay, and then the list of functional requirement and non-functional requirement. And the system evaluations, which is to define the fundamental assumption on which the system is based and anticipated change. Because after you have a system construction, you have evolution. Because we no longer mention it as a maintain. Like I said, that maintain more than maintain. That's why we use the word evolution. So document also can have a suggestion lah. Minimum requirement macam tu lah kan. If you want to enhance it, or what kind of facilities that you need to upgrade as well, macam tu lah. And glossary lah, which is the terminology or the word use, technical term use, because your client, your stakeholder might not understand some of the term. Glossary is important lah to give more explanation to them. Okay. So to write a document, requirement for requirement document. Okay. So of course, talking about the document, okay, specify external system behavior, specify implement constraint, easy to change, serve as reference tool, record for talk about the life cycle of the system predict. So this should be included actually lah. Like you learn in the chapter, at the end of the chapter what you learn, right? Dia pun at the end of the users read the document, so inilah all these are achieved. Okay? The users can understand the behavior of the system, can see the implementation of the constraint. Okay, if there is a upgrading or action evolution later on, easy to change. Okay, so actually it's a reference tool lah, reference tool. Okay, sebab tu ada minimum requirement kan, maximum upgrading macam mana. Okay, characters. Okay, so rational, kenapa perlu adanya kan requirement, rationals. So of course, important to provide rationale with requirement. This to help the developer understand application domain and why the requirement is stated in its current form for developer understanding. Okay. Particularly important when requirement have to be changed, the availability of rationale reduce the chance that change will have unexpected effect. So that developer know. Because sometimes your developer team might be changed. Those who develop the first phase, the first phase of the system might different team. Kan? Mungkin nak diorang dah pindah kerja apa semua kan. So this requirement, so this document is needed for the new team to understand the system first. Okay, that's the reason lah. Rational, let me rational. So talking about the writing of the document. Okay, so we have a few types of writing technique: natural language using numbered sentence, structured natural language, standard form or template. You will be using a structured lah. I will give you the structured natural language. Design description language, a programming language. Okay, this one is really used lah because your stakeholder, your client might not understand it. Graphical notation using a graphical model. This also you will do. UML use case. Mathematical specification. Ada yang orang guna pseudocode apa semua tu kan. All these are technique lah. Technique to do a writing requirement. So overall, in writing requirement, we have two types. Non-structured and structured. Okay, non-structured ni yang ni lah, anything. Campur-campur, kan? Natural language. But you guys will do the structured one. Because normally we use the structured template, easy. Okay, because But one template to the other template, organization template might different, because some organizations might have their own template tau. Dia memang dah ada template dia. To develop a system, you need to have this and this and this and this. Okay, but some company don't have the template, so boleh buat non-structured. Okay? But normally they have because this is based on best practice. So after project one done, so you will copy the process same with the previous one. So dia mesti structured, normally structured lah. Dia ada form, ada template. So form based ataupun tabular based. So let's look into non-structured, which is natural language. So natural language is typically used when writing requirement definition. This is universally understandable, but 3 types of problem can arise. Okay. Of course, when talking about the option, right? It's have advantage and disadvantage, strength and weakness kan. So sama juga yang ni. Why we choose structured over non-structured? Because non-structured have the problem, which is lack of clarity, confusion, and amalgamation. Several different requirements may be expressed together. So dia jadi amalgamation. Okay. But instead of they have a problem, actually there is a guideline to do a non-structured. Okay. So invent a standard format. Okay. Should consistent use a language. Text highlighting. Okay. You can put it as a bold kan, to make sure that there's a key point. Avoid the use of jargon. Word yang jargon yang terlalu teknikal yang orang tak faham, avoid to use it. Okay. Include explanation. Okay. Instead of you use mathematician, explanation is provided so that people can understand better lah. So this is a guideline if you want to use non-structured. Again, dia pun ada standard format dia sebenarnya. Okay, because normally we use best practice. After project 1 done, we look back at project 2, which we need to improve or which we need to maintain. So senang lah, takkanlah daripada awal nak buat lagi balik lambat kan. So normally we use same template kan. Okay. So problem with natural language, okay, natural language like relies on specification readers and writer. Okay, bergantunglah kepada orang yang faham dan orang yang menulis tu. Okay. A natural language specification is over flexible. Dia terlalu fleksibel kan, sampai different interpretation. Some people think differently. This is not good lah kan. Orang kata sistem tu boleh buat macam ni, tapi yang other person thinks that different way. So it might have a conflict. Requirement are not partitioned by language structure. Okay, so because it's non-structured, okay, you can start with anything first, right? Not following the structure lah. Structure tu dia tersusun lah kan. So where structured specification written in a standard way. That's why normally they have a template. Dia ada template. This works well for some types of requirement. Example, requirement for embed control system, but it's sometimes too rigid for writing business system. Biasalah template, right? Template, because one system, one project to one project might be different. So of course you have a standard, but should be flexible. Okay? You can add on the additional something like that. It should be flexible at the same time. Okay. So just now we have two, right? The form based and the tabular based. Okay? This is the form based definition of the function or entity, description of input, where they come from, description of output and where they go, information about the information needed. This one you will do in your use case later on. You have a use case diagram, okay, followed by use case description. Okay. This is example of form base. Dia sama lebih kurang macam you buat nanti you punya use case description. Tabular dalam bentuk table lah. Condition, apa action dia. Condition, apa action dia. Okay, used to supplement natural language, particularly useful when you have to define a number of possible alternative, alternative input kan. Kalau masuk ni jadi apa, kalau buat macam ni jadi apa. So ada condition and action different. Okay. So to summarize, so ni summarize lah. Requirement set out what the system should do and define constraint. Again, requirement involve functional and non-functional. That's why what system should do is the functional requirement. Defined constraint is the non-functional requirement. Okay. Functional requirements set out services, which is the features, right? And non-functionals is constraint the system being developed or development process, where it should be efficient, where it should be safe, something that you couldn't see it but you can experience it lah. Okay. User requirement are highly level standard of what system should do. User requirement should be written using this is types of user requirement. Okay, that's all. So you have writing in structured and non-structured, right? So actually you use structured lah. You are given a template, okay, for your SRS, and inside it also actually you have the language where you use the use case diagram and followed by use case description and followed by your activity diagram, sequence diagram, and finally your class diagram. That's we will learn tomorrow for your lab session. With that, I think that's all. Requirement engineering tu the detail of the process dengan stages tadi. So dia sama je, dia just continue the detail. Remember in requirement engineering, we have the terminology of SRS. Okay? Remember SRS stand for software requirement specification. The second part is the process where you have the requirement elicitation, analysis, validation, and management, right? The common activity. And in process, you have the stages. You discover, classification, lepas tu prioritize, lepas tu ada baru come out dengan specification. Okay, this process and stages will explain detail in requirement engineering 2, part 2. Okay, and then a technique. Okay, a technique for elicitation. Okay, and then issues. The 4 issues you have weak problem, inconsistency, clash, and granularity. Lastly, document. Okay, document and how to write the document. You have structured and non-structured. That's all. Boleh? Dapat? Okay, good. Okay, hopefully everyone can, like I said lah, tadi yang level of understanding kata half, dah boleh dapat lebih daripada half kan? Dah faham dah? Apa maksud requirement? Apa jenis-jenis requirement? Apa sumber-sumber requirement? Apa karakter ciri-ciri requirement? Lepas tu, dalam requirement engineering detail dia. Dia punya terminologi, apa tu SRS, and then the process, stages, issues, and finally how to write the document. Itu je kan? Senang kan? Boleh? Any question?
Tak ada.
Tak ada. Selalu macam tu lah, tak ada soalan kan? Bila saya soal balik boleh jawab. Hopefully, alhamdulillah kalau boleh jawab kan. Okay, InsyaAllah boleh jawab lah nanti. So, like I say lah, nanti bila test you punya test 1, okay, explore more. Sebab you tengok dekat lecture note pun is just a basic explanation kan, overview. Kalau you nak tahu detail lagi apa, macam tadi, dia proses tadi dia tunjuk elicitation saja. Analisis dia, kalau you belajar probability and statistic, you buat analisis macam tu kan, dia detail. So you can explore again. Okay, make sure you understand why we need to do a requirement and how, okay, we do a requirement engineering. Okay, because this is a part of your test 1. With that, if no questions, okay, don't forget to sign in attendance. Okay, I see you tomorrow, right? Tomorrow your lab session kan? So I see you tomorrow for lab session. We will do UML, right? Bye everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay, doktor.